Good morning, everybody. Hello? Oh, there we go. I thought you guys were in education and new stuff. So I'm Vix. I look after healthcare for Jamf globally, and I have the absolute pleasure of calling Mr. Michael Lopez a friend. I thought long and hard about how to introduce him this morning because there's a little secret I'm going to share with you about him. His most favorite song of all time. It's the Cha-Cha Slide. And I was going to ask you all to stand up and let's do it together.
On three.
No? Not anybody? No? No? Okay. Well, in that case, please enjoy the time with Michael. Make sure you listen carefully. There will be question time at the end, so raise your hand, and I will run. I mean, I might not run, but I will come round slowly and take your questions. But please, let's say thank you to Michael for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. Appreciate it. Oh, I need this. So I'm going to pace, because I can't stay still. But welcome, everybody. Hope everyone had a great time last night. I know I did. Lots of fun, lots of people to meet. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. As you can see, the title of the presentation is PowerShell and the Mac Admin. Coming from the background I have, I found that it might be good to talk about it to individuals. It's going to be like a intro type course to cover some basics and show you what we're doing at New Mexico State. But we're going to get a little philosophical for a second. And so this quote, uncomfortable is good, and uncomfortable means you're learning. And I actually had to apply this quote today because I'm uncomfortable presenting, right? So I said, I need to get over that curve. And it was said by Jeffrey Snover, the inventor of PowerShell. And one of the reasons why we come to JNUC is to learn new things, try to take it home, apply it, and continue to build our solutions. So from New Mexico State, one of the mottos is never stop learning. And I know how that sounds, right? But I've actually applied that for most of my tenure there. And I find learning to be important as it pushes us to the next level. So, again, title, my name is Michael Lopez. I am an enterprise systems architect for New Mexico State University. And I've been there now for 8 years, going on 9. I started as a student, and now I moved up to desktop support. And now I am in the systems administration team. One day when I was a student, I was told, hey, here's Jamf. No one wants to touch it. So I was given that hat that day in 2019. So I asked Copilot to generate me an image of someone that wears multiple hats, and then it actually put the Apple logo on there. I was very impressed. But so I asked it to put multiple hats on. I am an Apple administrator. I am a identity and access management administrator, M365, and then Windows. I'm trying to drop the Windows hat, but unfortunately it's all kind of layered in together. But thanks to those roles, those opportunities that the university has given me, I've been able to apply and combine it together to be successful with our Macs. So another things to look at. So what's your experiences with managing systems beyond macOS? And this could be like your ticketing system, Jamf, other things that you deal with day to day. And like, what are some of the tasks that you encounter that you could try to improve and just automate, because automation's cool. So our session roadmap, there we go. So why PowerShell? the installation, functionality of it, PowerShell use cases, and some closing thoughts. So as a quick vote, who's used it before, even if it's just opening it? Oh, okay. Great crowd then. So some of this might be a bit of a repeat, but for those that don't know it, PowerShell is a cross-platform task automation solution. It's a command line, a scripting language, and a configuration management. So you can use it to declare configurations on your devices, Windows servers, Azure, things like that. And PowerShell now runs on all 3 operating systems. But you're going to ask me, I thought PowerShell only worked on Windows because of .NET. And that was the case a few years ago, more than a few years at this point. But PowerShell 7 is now built on .NET Core, which allows it to be cross-platform. .NET Framework is specific to Windows, and some Windows modules do work for PowerShell 7. It's not a lot. I wish Active Directory worked on it, because then I would never have to remote onto a Windows machine again. But until then, I still have to get onto to use ADAC or use PowerShell on our box. So what do you need? You need macOS 13 or higher. I'm hoping a lot of us are on 13 or higher at this point, but good thing it has some older age so we could continue to use it. Microsoft recommends using Homebrew, or you can use Workbrew if you're using that to manage the package from a central point, or direct download. Right now, PowerShell in our current Mac environment is being used as an admin tool, and meaning just strictly on my device or anyone else that wants to use it. There's some individuals in the PowerShell Slack that deploy it to all their clients, and that's how they do management tasks. Right now, that's not where we're at to handle that, which I thought was neat that individuals were doing that. So I'm going to get down, bread and butter. So how do you use it, right? So PowerShell is just like Bash, Z Shell. You can issue a command, get information back from the system. It does its same thing. So we have Commandlets, examples on the bottom, on the left. And Commandlets like to follow a verb-noun convention: get, set, update. And that's, in my opinion, the way it makes it easy to be able to work on the terminal alone or in VS Code and not have to leave to look up a command. Because once you know the verbs, the noun usually stay the same. Item, for example, graph users. So an example here is just how the get module command works. And as a follow-up to that, so commandlets are bundled into modules. Modules can be installed from PowerShell Gallery, or from developers can package it and distribute it across for others. And PowerShell can also be, it's a scripting language itself also. So let's say you have a module. I live in the Microsoft Graph. It's a terrible place. Terrible place. So if you're ever interested, install it so you can see how many commands there are. So this is a small sample of it. And let's say you want to know what commands come out from a module. You run the get command, commandlet, you run the flag dash module, and you insert the module you're trying to get. And then you return the information you need. Now, commandlets have, when you run these commands, they return, they output information, right? And if you do a get member, what this does is it displays the property information of that commandlet and what's returned to the screen. So all these values you see are searchable, filterable, well, I guess that's the same thing, right? But you can manipulate and use the information that you're seeing on the left by the name. And PowerShell was written in C# and is built to be object-oriented. So it treats everything as an object. If you use Python, it's kind of the same idea. I like PowerShell more. PowerShell makes a little bit more sense to me. I think because of that verb-noun convention. And object definition, for those who may not be aware, is just an object is a structured piece of data. And I appreciate the Mac admins out there, the Linux admins who manipulate strings all day. I commend you. I can't do that. I lose patience, and it becomes demoralizing using awk and sed. So I commend you all. But with an object, it's much easier, and I can show you how. So while this loads. So the pipeline, that's PowerShell's bread and butter. The bar can be used, the pipe can be used to take the information from your commands and push it down the line to be further used over and over again, and even manipulate it again down the line. So an example is you run the command, you get the object, you can filter it, sort it, you get your output. So we're going to do a little story time, we're going to run through a process, and then I'm going to show you an example. So we have our command get process. All these items are properties that you see. And here, what we're doing is, if you want, so what I did before that was I stored that output into a variable, right? So now with the pipe, that the output is stored there, and we can pipe that information, we push it through, we're gonna search for the property process name that matches the letter M, right? Process name under M. And you could include as well multiple properties. So if you want to do filtering based on CSVs, I want users that are like this, that have an A5 license, or I want them who the last login, you can sort and filter by multiple values. Here's another example of a get process, right? Where the CPU time is greater than 100 seconds, we sort it by the CPU, and we get the top 30. And as you can see, I'm a monster, and I use Microsoft Edge. So now, let's say you had this deployed on your fleet, and for example, I know back when with Jamf Connect, you had to push the package on, kill the process, and then it would reload, and then you would have your new version. So here, same idea. We want to get the process. We're searching for the process name like the Cisco VPN, and we find it. And here's a little tangent. So it has a built-in display function, FT, format table, FL, format list. I personally like how format list looks. And by the way, I should have written it out full, but you can use FT for short and FL for short instead of format table. That's too much typing. Oh, and PowerShell has autocomplete also with tab. So we find our process. There we go. We find our process, and then we use the pipeline. There's a built-in command that stops it. And then we find that process, we pipe it through, we push it through, we stop it with that command. So that's like a, for individuals who hadn't used it before, I wanted to give some insight, because like some of those commands, the Microsoft Learn, well, we all, if you've ever had to go to the Microsoft Learn pages, you know how difficult that is. So some of that information is missed. So one of the best things about PowerShell, I keep talking about objects, right? How do we ingest that? So there's two built-in commandlets, Invoke-RestMethod Invoke-RestMethod. Invoke-RestMethod is essentially designed for interacting with RESTful web services, and is automatically doing JSON formatting. Invoke-RestMethod is more like a curl, and it will return raw data from the URL. I say URI because that's what the flag calls it, so I'll go in between URI and URL. But both can be used depending on the workflow you're trying to achieve. So the REST method, I was testing it against a weather API, an example online, and you could see how it returns our properties immediately. Then you can store this to a variable, or you can push it down the pipeline and just get whatever you need to. The one thing I did not mention is dot properties. Python operates the same way, and you have dot properties. So let's say you put this to weather, the variable weather, and you do weather dot time zone, you would get specifically that information. So you can see how that comes out. Invoke web request is the raw request, and you can see we get some additional information here. All that data from the last request is actually all inside the content property. So you would need to pull it out to use it. Now, why would you use one or the other? For me, sometimes I need that status code on the top for if statements, right? You can use that to continue down the process, continue down your script or function, whatever you need to do. So here's a side-by-side. You can see how the difference is. The invoke rest method on top, on the current units, you can see how they're enclosed inside curlies. Those have further properties that can be expanded. So how we are using PowerShell with the Jamf Pro API and APIs in general. So I told you that commandlets they're essentially functions, right? And so what we're doing is I'm creating my own function, commandlet, and I'm creating my own flags here, client ID, client secret, the URI. Depending on how you want to do it, you can either hard code it, but it just depends on your workflow, right? I can demonstrate it. So in this single function, what we're doing is we're configuring it to send a post to the Jamf Pro API to get that auth token. So we're configuring our headers here. We configure our body content so that content, the variables are filled when you run it. Here, we're posting to the Jamf Pro API. And as you can see, I'm using invoke web request. I get the status code of 200, meaning A-OK. It continues down the thing. And in the center there, that's one of PowerShell's most powerful things. It's an advanced thing, but that's a custom PowerShell object. So let's say you have let's say you're running a script. And throughout the script, you have 4 variables that are loaded with information. You can use a custom PowerShell object, and you can, on the left-hand side, you'll see status code, access token, scope. That's what we consider our properties. So you can pull multiple variables and their dot properties and configure your own properties. And next slide, you can see what I'm talking about here. And you can see on the right-hand side, the response dot status code. Those are all the properties from the response variable on the top when we invoke web request. I will be honest here. I had Copilot vibe code me a catch statement for all the possible error codes or status codes. I was using this as a template, so if I get any type of error code, it'll output it to the terminal, so that way I can know it. And I just didn't want to type it out, I'm gonna be honest. But it works well. So here's the example of me running that function. I'm hard setting the client ID, hard setting the client secret, and all the configuration that you saw is inside that commandlet, get Jamf auth token. I set my flags, and then I post. So you're going to ask maybe where's the URL, the Jamf Pro URL? Well, that was configured in the function. That's hard setting. I did it for this example. You would want to put it outside of it. Why? Because if you have a dev site, a sandbox site, production, you can easily just swap it out in between scripts. So all those custom values I set up here, you can see it there. And then you can then store that access token into a variable. And then boom, on to the next thing. And I did the pretty expires, and I just thought it looked pretty. So this video is going to go a little fast, but I'm gonna press next after I talk about it. So we set up the environment, we hard set the values, we set up a serial number. There's some other Jamf functions I've written, like for the sites. And I've always loved old school movies, like where they work in the terminal. I've always loved that. My first programming class, my professor got really mad at me because it was too many clicks inside the terminal, and it stayed with me. He was visibly disgusted with the amount of enters he had to do. So here we're getting the device, we're getting the available sites. I put it the site I want. And I know that was a little fast, right? But I think it plays again. If not, I'll do it again. But so a quick snippet of what happened in the script. We have a function, a custom function that gets the sites. We have a function that moves the device. We have a function that gets device information. And if you've ever experimented with the API, you know when you get a return of a device information, the list is like this. So I told it with a custom object, I just want these 4 things. And I just love terminal input. I just love it. And at the end, we clear the auth token, so that way it's invalidated. So here, I threw this together. I was recommended that I show this off because it's important. So this is actually an example with the ASM API. Apple has a very, very, very complicated way of doing it. With Jamf, piece of cake, auth token, you post, you get it, you're on your way. The ASM one requires a certificate. Someone on the PowerShell Slack admin was able to get it working with PowerShell. Before that, what I was doing is I was running a shell script. I can't remember their name right now, but it was very popular. I had that shell script, and you can run it in PowerShell while it was running. So right here, it's a simple Apple School Manager API to get device information. It gets the authorization from the initial item that you saw. And what this does is it's just posting to get a device MDM server, I believe. And throughout this week, I've learned that my Keynote skills, PowerPoint skills, need to be elevated. So I'm going to improve it next time. Lots of people do great stuff, so it inspired me. So that video was covering what I did here. Get device MDM server if you need a quick answer. Boom. Custom PowerShell custom object is what you're seeing there. And yeah, I can't wait for them to continue expanding on that API. It's going to be real great stuff. So some ideas that we have is I actually had to utilize the Apple School Manager API to move multiple devices bought throughout multiple years into a different site. I didn't want to do ClickOps. I told myself to push myself to try it. So some closing thoughts. How can you become more uncomfortable, right? Essentially, learning something new, improving your career, something that you've always wanted to do, tech or not, you can do that. And that way you're growing as a person. And I think that's important. So, some key takeaways. What is it? It's a management framework, scripting solution that's now cross-platform. How can it be used? You can use it to manage your devices locally, or you can manage services outside of your realm. Now, it can be used anywhere, Windows, Mac, Linux. And again, I say it to learn something new. I'll keep hammering on that because I think it's important. So what are we doing with PowerShell at New Mexico State University? I forgot where I worked for a second. So what are we doing with it? Well, we primarily use it for Jamf, Microsoft Graph, and one of our newest things is Team Dynamics, and we've been using Azure Runbooks and I forgot to include Intune. So what we're doing here, I can give you an example with our Team Dynamics. We have an end user submit a ticket, and they submit a ticket for a SharePoint site. The ticket submits it. The Team Dynamics posts to an API in Azure. Azure Runbooks, by the way, everyone, is a free resource for the first 500 hours. After that, then they start charging you pennies. So I highly recommend that resource. So we post to that. Azure Runbooks runs PowerShell. It can talk to the graph. It can talk to SharePoint using a service, no password service account. Runs that, sends it back, posts to the ticket that it's complete, sends the ticket information, the SharePoint site information to the individuals, and then they're rocking and rolling. We don't have to touch it. Microsoft Graph, kind of the same thing. But those are some examples. What I'm really excited for is we're going to start implementing rapid identity, and we're going to be able to use PowerShell to help with our workflows and further connect our systems and our processes together. Like Jeffrey Snover says, right? It's power in PowerShell. So I highly recommend using it. It's a great tool, and I think it's much simpler than Python. So you can get a hold of me, MacAdmin Slack, or my email. You can ask me a question. I'm always happy to chat. I love talking about this stuff. Like I said, we're going to implement rapid identity, so it might be a little busy sometimes, but I think it'll be okay. Thank you.
It makes me really happy when somebody I care about does this. So thank you, Michael. Really much appreciate it. So open to the floor. Any questions? Please don't expect me to run, so nobody at the back, put your hand up first. No, you can. It's OK. Yes.
You've opened my eyes to this with the words AD module. When do you expect that to come into play? Because I would absolutely be interested in that.
Which module again?
Active Directory.
Oh, I don't expect it ever. If I remember correctly, they started work again on ADAC and ADUC modules because of the demand. So they're actually improving it. But a lot of, if I remember what I read, a lot of that stuff was written in legacy Windows stuff. So what you can do, if you can get it working, I got it working once with our test environment, is you can start-ps remote session, and if your networking is set up and your Mac is set up, you can remote into your Windows jump box, start issuing commands there. Invoke PS, the name, you put the list, and you can start doing that as well. But never, I wish.
Any other questions? Awkward silence for count of 3. OK. Michael, thank you ever so much. If everyone can give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you, everyone.